Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of Second Take, the most exciting part of your Friday afternoons. I am Armand Sadler, you know that already. Jillian, how are you?
You know what? I'm great. I can't complain. A little sick, but I still can't miss second take.
Glad to hear it. The show must go on. So let's jump right into it. We got a lot of MLB news as the season is underway. We got the Final Four coming up this weekend. Of course, we got some NFL news and some NBA stuff to talk about, so let's jump right into it. DeSean Jackson has been signed by the Washington Redskins, and although it's a good move for the Redskins, I also feel that it's a good move for the Eagles. I didn't support the move initially, but I've been reading up on it this week, and I found out a lot of information. Apparently, DeSean Jackson was a me guy in the locker room. He wasn't happy with his salary. He wanted a higher salary. He came off of a career season this past season with 82 receptions, 1,332 receiving yards, and 9 touchdowns, and if the Eagles didn't want to give him more money now, then he wasn't going to get it. So them parting ways was good for DeSean Jackson and for the Eagles. He was their number one receiver, but he wasn't really happy, and that would cause tension. I don't really think he's the type to give less than 100%, but you don't know. He might do that if he's not getting what he wants. The Eagles are under the impression that with him gone and Jeremy Maclin becoming their new number one receiver, that he'll be able to replicate the numbers that DeSean Jackson had. I don't think so. Maybe Maclin, Cooper, Sproles, and all their other receivers can do that, but I don't think they'll get one solid player who will do what DeSean Jackson did. So, I mean, yeah, it's unfortunate, but I think it was a good move in terms of the locker room and team chemistry.
Well, y'all know how heartbroken I was about this. As an Eagles fan, I'm going to miss DeSean. But as you were saying, he is a very me guy, and there is no I in team, as we've heard many times in our lives. So I don't really believe that he was probably the best fit because he is very self-absorbed, sorry, DeSean, and he's all about himself, and that's not good for any NFL team. This is now the Redskins' problem, not ours. But as far as Jeremy Maclin, he is a very underrated receiver. We played against him a lot because he played against Missouri before they left the Big 12, and he is an incredible receiver. Like, he honestly is. He's fast. He's very fast. He can catch the ball. It's as far as if he's going to be the new number one, they're going to have to treat him as such. Last year it was DeSean, so Jeremy Maclin didn't get much play. I think they're going to look into another receiver in the draft, and I definitely think they should also look into some corners because once they play the Redskins, now they have the problem of playing against DeSean Jackson, which guys on the Eagles have said that they're going to dread that day that they play the Redskins because they know how great of a player he is. And going against someone that you once played with and you know how good they are, you liked them when they were on your team, but now that they're on the other team, it gets hard. Like, that's hard stuff.
Yes, Eagles-Redskins next season, the two times that they play, because they are in the same division, that's going to be a very interesting game. I read something else where the Eagles described DeSean Jackson as expendable because Jeremy Maclin is a more well-rounded player. I would never describe DeSean Jackson as expendable. He's one of the top receivers in the NFL, so I would never say such a thing. I do understand what they're saying in that losing him, they get to give Jeremy Maclin more play. He was injured a lot of last year. They also let Riley Cooper get a lot more play because he got a lot better last season. So I understand what they're saying. And then there was an interesting opinion given by Richard Sherman, who's been chiming in on a lot of things lately. He was very, very angry with the Eagles releasing DeSean Jackson. And his reasoning was that the Eagles released DeSean Jackson because of alleged gang affiliations, but they almost rewarded Riley Cooper for his clear usage of the N-word at a concert. And that's reflective of their organization. So if they're going to reward someone for doing such a thing and then release someone for alleged things, then that looks really bad on them. And Richard Sherman grew up with DeSean Jackson. He knows a lot of his family history. DeSean Jackson lost his father when he was young. All of his friends acted as his family. And although they may be affiliated and do gang-like things, that does not mean DeSean Jackson does those things. And with the NFL trying to ban the N-word now and the Eagles releasing DeSean Jackson but keeping Riley Cooper around after he used the N-word, Richard Sherman just had a lot of negative things to say about the Eagles organization. And I understand that, and I really agree with what he's saying. Again, I understand why the Eagles shipped off DeSean Jackson, but their reasoning is very, very cloudy, and it's very easy to argue with. And the NFL Players Association just released a statement that they will be looking into the circumstances of Jackson's release. So I look forward to see what comes out of this.
Yeah. The thing about what Richard Sherman says is I do understand and I do agree with it if that were to be the case. I do not feel that the Eagles rewarded Riley Cooper in any way after his comments using the N-word. I didn't think that at all. Personally, I think that Riley Cooper is scum as a person for him to say such a thing, and the fact he still has his job, that bothers me. But they did, I mean, they made that boy's life hell. First of all, every other team that they played, he dealt with problems with all those other players. I know he had to go to counseling, he had to do all that stuff. Yes, that doesn't exactly make it good, but I do think that they have fixed the Riley Cooper problem. As far as DeSean Jackson, it's kind of weird. The gang affiliation thing was very weird, but also they may have they never said that he was in a gang, but then his off-field affiliation. So if he's hanging out with people who are in gangs, yes, that's your friends from back home are your friends from back home. If those are the people he grew up with, those are the people he grew up with. But at the same time, when you are an NFL player, you are representing the entire team with what you do off the field. For him to be walking around with whatever the gang may be, it's not good for the team. It's not good for the Eagles organization. It's not good for the NFL as a whole. Right. So when it comes to stuff like that, that's different than you just saying the N-word. Yes, it's terrible and it's bad, but also this is gang affiliation. This is dealing with drugs and killing and all this other stuff that's way more heavy. So it's a weird situation. I understand why Richard Sherman weighed in on it. And I understand his opinion as a friend of DeSean Jackson, but you never really know fully, and this is a business. At the end of the day, this is a business, and you don't want anything that's going to misrepresent your business or put a bad image for your business. So I understand why they did that. If that was the case, and looking into it wouldn't be the worst thing. Right. DeSean just has to be careful, and it sucks that this is the way it is, but he knew what he was getting into, so...
Yeah, I believe Richard Sherman saying that Riley Cooper was rewarded was in reference to the contract extension he received the same summer that he said the N-word. I think that's what he meant. I mean, clearly they weren't saying, oh, you said the N-word, let us give you a bigger contract. But it kind of looks that way. And I just want to ask you this question. I'm not attacking you personally, but as you said, DeSean Jackson is in the NFL. It's a business. He has to reflect his organization well. But do you think that he should let go of his lifelong friends because of the fact that they're not as successful as he is, or do you think that he can keep them around? I just want to get your personal opinion on that, because that's what Richard Sherman mentioned.
I mean, it's tough. Like, at the end of the day, it's a very tough thing. But at the same time, I don't know how old DeSean is. He's probably somewhere in his 20s. He's 27?
Yes.
Okay. So, his friends... There has to be a time where you leave that life behind, If these guys are still currently in their gangs, that just says something. And I understand this could be like your cousin, and honestly, there's only one way to say it is it sucks, but it is a business, and he's gonna have to. You gotta distance yourself. Like it's awful, but that's the way it works. Like I don't support that. This isn't me agreeing with it, but realistically, the NFL wants you to be the best spitting image of yourself because you're representing them. And for you to be affiliated, doesn't mean that you are in the gang, but you are hanging out with people who are gang members. It looks bad to them, and they don't want you doing that. And the fact that they control your life, so when they say don't do it, you're going to have to not do it. And that sucks. Like, I feel bad for him, but that's what he got into.
Yeah, it's a really unfortunate story. I personally don't feel that he should let go of his friends, despite the fact that they may be affiliated in gangs. There's some stories of him throwing up a Crip sign in Instagram pictures, and he had marijuana in his car once, but that doesn't really indicate to me that he's a part of a gang. It's really unfortunate. I feel bad that this is the way it had to end. I wish him the best of success with the Washington Redskins. They also just signed our favorite non-analyst, Ryan Clark, who weighs in on everything. He came off a good season last season, 2 interceptions, 60 tackles. He's 34. He's a leader. I think he'll add great things to the Washington Redskins organization. So, as I've said before, as long as RG3 stays healthy, the Redskins can be a dangerous team. They have Pierre Garçon. The Redskins are going to be fine as long as RG3 stays healthy.
I was actually watching something interesting. It was on ESPN because the other day was actually it would have been Sean Taylor's birthday. Sean Taylor, if y'all remember, he was a Washington Redskins safety. He got killed, what was it, like 7, 8 years ago. It was a while back, but and the interesting thing is like they were talking about because Ryan Clark had a relationship with Sean Taylor. They were teammates at the time, and whoever the analyst was who's weighing in on it had been very close with the team. He was with the team at the time as an analyst, and he saw how Sean Taylor was as a person and as a player, and he saw that Ryan Clark was working in his image, which is now like kind of seen as the type of player that Sean Taylor was. So I think that Ryan Clark getting back on the Redskins is going to be good for him because it's going to bring back all of that for Sean Taylor, all the memories and stuff, and it's going to bring back more motivation for him to play to the same caliber that Sean Taylor played, and I think that is making the Redskins insane. They're going to come off a great, like they're just going to be great this year if RG3 can get it together. Because last year RG3 was the problem, and if he can be consistent. They got to put their faith in him, but at the same time, they need someone who's going to be able to relieve him if necessary.
Yes. Yeah, the Redskins have made great moves this offseason. Ryan Clark is definitely going to add great things to the Redskins. And Sean Taylor absolutely would have been one of the greatest safeties to ever play in the NFL. So I think that with his memory, with Ryan Clark coming back, with Deshaun Jackson added to the team, the Redskins are going to be very, very good this season. And I look forward to seeing what they do. Moving on. Chris Johnson was officially cut by the Tennessee Titans today. We actually discussed him a few weeks ago. I feel that he's underperformed since his amazing 2,000-yard season in 2009. I don't think that he's been what the Titans have needed, and they haven't been a good team as it is. So, in my opinion, change is always better if things aren't working for you. Perhaps someone will pick him up. I know the Falcons might have been interested in him, but best of luck to him. I know he'll get picked up by someone because he's very athletic and he's very talented. I just think that he needs to perhaps try a bit more and put more effort into it because he's really underperformed. So, yeah.
I'm sure the Raiders will pick him up because the Raiders are picking up everybody. So I wouldn't be surprised if the Raiders called little Chris Johnson and had him go over to Oakland. And why not add another running back? Sure.
Yeah, I'm actually shocked that there's been no news from the Raiders this week, but next week we'll probably have something, so I'm looking forward to that. The Seattle Seahawks actually re-signed Pete Carroll to a 3-year extension, which was perhaps the smartest thing that they could ever do. He's a great coach, as we've discussed, one of the best coaches to ever coach football. I can totally see them repeating next season. He's really brought a lot to their team, made them very successful, helped turn them around. So I look forward to seeing Pete Carroll coach the Seahawks a bit more.
Yeah, that's a great move. I wanted Pete Carroll to come coach at Texas. I thought that would have been a great hire for us. Instead, we got Charlie Strong. Love Charlie, but it would have been cool to have Pete. He is a great coach. I don't like him as much as a person, but I do respect him a lot as a coach. I think he's a great coach. They could definitely repeat, especially with the targets they've added in the offseason. Yep. Smart move by the Seahawks. I didn't think that this was ever in question. Seahawks became relevant when Pete Carroll got there, so they need him yeah.
Definitely. Interesting story. I know Jill has issues with rookies being very bold and brash, and Crabtree saying that he deserves a high contract extension before he was even drafted. Jadeveon Clowney this week says that he should be the #1 draft pick, and Mike Sando, the person who wrote the article on it, agreed. And it's a bold statement. It's very bold. For someone who hasn't played in the NFL yet to say that they should be the top pick, and that's just crazy to me. And I would agree with Jadeveon Clowney if the Houston Texans weren't the first pick, because they need a quarterback badly. Their current quarterback depth chart has Case Keenum, Ryan Fitzpatrick, and T.J. Yates. Although T.J. Yates did good things for them when Matt Schaub and Matt Leinart went down a couple seasons ago and led them to the playoffs, I don't think that Yates, Keenum, or Fitzpatrick are the guys to lead the Texans. So it would behoove them to take Jadeveon Clowney when they really need a quarterback right now. So Clowney, I definitely think you deserve to be a #1 draft pick, but definitely for a different team, not for the Houston Texans.
Surprisingly enough, I'm not mad at him. I agree. Jadeveon Clowney, you should be the #1 pick. You should be. You're the only. You should be the pick. You are the pick. I watched his pro day. I was blown away. I saw him do, I don't know if you got to see it, but for one of the exercises, they have to jump over these bags and then pick up like tennis balls. And he was really pushing it. He jumped over like 6 bags, and then they added another one, and he cleared the 7 bags easily. Like he could have probably done 8, and he scooped up the tennis balls, and he even said he's never done exercises like that before. He was incredible. He wowed everyone on his pro day, everybody. And so if it's not him, who is the number 1 pick? Yes, the Texans do need a quarterback, but defense wins championships. And to add Jadeveon Clowney to any defense, you have created an incredible team just by having him on there. He's better than I think we ever gave him credit for. I certainly thought that he was kind of a bust his senior year, but I mean he's amazing. Like he blew my mind on pro day. Like it's not like pro day is like such an exciting thing to watch, but it was incredible just seeing his athleticism. And any team that would pass him up, they would regret that forever. And I can tell you that right now, passing him up is not worth it. And if the Texans were to pass him up, who would they draft for their number 1 pick? Blake Bortles? Because they're sure as hell not drafting Johnny Manziel. He's not the number 1 pick, and I can tell you that right now. So if you're not going to get Clowney, the only other person I could see the Texans needing, if they need a quarterback so badly, is Blake Bortles.
Well, you make an interesting point about defenses win championships. The past couple seasons, we've seen great defenses lead their teams to the Super Bowl. But my point is that although defenses do win championships, you don't have a successful NFL team without a great quarterback. And the past couple seasons, we've seen great quarterbacks win Super Bowls with the exception of Eli Manning, because I don't think he's a great quarterback. Joe Flacco, though, his arguments about him being elite, I don't think he's elite, but I think he's great. Tom Brady, he's great. Peyton Manning, he's great. Aaron Rodgers, Ben Roethlisberger, we've seen great quarterbacks win. And I don't think having a great defense is amazing. The Bears in 2006 had a great defense, but they didn't beat the Colts because their quarterback was Rex Grossman, who wasn't great. I think that you need a great defense, but also a great quarterback. And I just think that if the Texans were to pick Clowney, sure, it would add great things to their defense. But offensively, I just don't think they would be as good as they could be. So I would personally add a quarterback instead of Clowney.
See, the thing is, you're talking about a great quarterback, and I'm looking at this draft class, and I do not see a great quarterback. I see good quarterbacks, but I do not see a great quarterback, a quarterback that will go down in history as a great quarterback, as the ones that you've listed. I don't see that in this draft class. Johnny Manziel is not a great quarterback. A.J. McCarron is not a great quarterback. Blake Bortles is not a great quarterback. Teddy Bridgewater is not a great quarterback. They're all very good quarterbacks, except Manziel. They're all good quarterbacks. And I think Teddy Bridgewater and Blake Bortles are the best in the draft class of quarterbacks, but that does not mean that I could see them leading their team to a Super Bowl. I just don't see it happening. However, in the following seasons, once James Winston's in the draft, I could see him turning into a great quarterback once he's in the NFL. Teddy Bridgewater has a lot of potential, and it would depend on the coaching. But as of right now, I do not see him being a great quarterback, and I don't see Blake Bortles being a great quarterback as well.
Well, I mean, I disagree with you on Johnny Manziel. I can see him and Teddy Bridgewater making immediate impacts in the NFL. So I would take a chance with Johnny Manziel and Bridgewater.
Hey, let's talk about little Johnny for a second. I don't know if any of you saw this, but he posted a picture on his Instagram of Charlie Strong, and it was a split screen of Charlie Strong and Johnny Manziel, because Charlie Strong did this little pose in a picture, and it's Johnny doing it too, and he said, "Charlie, you're not part of the regime." The thing that bothers me about this, first of all, is this Coach Strong to you, Johnny boy? You call him Coach Strong, he is not Charlie to you. You need to show him respect because that's what he deserves. Also, show some class. Why are you posting that? Everybody knows you're just doing it because you're sad you never got to go to Texas. We all know this. He has a Longhorn tattoo on him. So I'm going to have to say, Johnny, sit down. This is what I'm talking about. No team wants this burden of him on them, because that's what he is. He's going to be a burden because he does stuff like this.
Well, I think that Johnny Manziel is going to get to the NFL, and he's going to have a reality check. Some of his mature teammates are going to talk to him and say, you need to relax. You're not going to be successful in the NFL with this attitude. I do like his attitude. I like how bold he is. He's exciting. He's always in the news, and he'll bring a lot of publicity to whatever team he goes to. But I do think that a lot of veterans in the NFL are going to set him straight. So I don't see him being like this forever. I do think that the Instagram post is very disrespectful. I don't think he should ever do that again. But at the same time, I think that Johnny Manziel is going to develop into a great NFL player, a leader, and his attitude will be straightened out. So I can't wait for that to happen. Moving on, some NBA news. We have Andrew Wiggins going to the NBA draft, and I'm excited about that. I think that Andrew Wiggins is going to be pretty good in the NBA. He came off a pretty good season. He's a 6'8" guard who averaged 17 points a game and 6 rebounds. Generally, I'm hesitant about players declaring for the draft their freshman year or just prior to getting their degree because you don't know if they'll get seriously injured and never be able to play again or if they'll even make it in the NBA. But Wiggins is very talented, and I think he can develop into a great player. And if he thinks he has what it takes to be good in the NBA and make it, then I don't see why not. Go for it.
I'm not trying to discredit Andrew Wiggins as a player. I do think he's very good. I think this was a little premature. I think he could have stayed another season. The reason I say that is him being in the Big 12 for Kansas, we played him. And when I understand some players have off games, but I was never impressed with him. When we played him, he did not impress me. He did not wow me. I couldn't understand the hype when I saw him in person. I'm not saying he's not a good player, that he's not a great player, but I think he needs more shaping. I think he needs to be. I think he needs more years in college. I think Bill Self needs to keep working on him in order for him to be a great NBA player. And as far as like the degree thing, they can come back and finish their degree. That's what Kevin Durant did. He's still been coming back to Texas, finishing up his degree. So a lot of people do. So as far as that goes, I'm okay with that. The whole being able to leave after your freshman year is really bizarre. It's very premature, and I think it throws these guys into a world that they're not ready for. But he'll get drafted. He'll get drafted high. It's just as far as if he can be shaped into a great player, because just because you're drafted high, I mean, look at Greg Oden. You know, he got picked before Kevin Durant. And he's played like 4 games over the past 7 years. Like, you know, he's always hurt, and it just happens. Those are things you can't anticipate. Yeah. So I can't even say if this is a great move or not. He thinks it is. You know, there's a lot of players who declared early this year, but he knows what he's doing. So you gotta give him, you know, credit for that.
Yeah. Andrew Wiggins, I think he's a very talented player. I think that he can do great things in the NBA, and there's definitely a team out there that needs him in the Philadelphia 76ers, but things are slightly looking up for them. They ended their 26-game losing streak last Saturday in beating the Pistons pretty significantly, so happy about that. You definitely don't want to go down in the record books for having a very long losing streak. At the same time, the Sixers are not a good team. They should definitely be looking in the draft for people. Tyler Ennis has declared, along with Andrew Wiggins. Jabari Parker is shaky. A lot of people think he might go back for his second year at Duke. But regardless, the Sixers should be looking to the draft now because they're obviously not making the playoffs, and the rest of their season is pretty much done. So hopefully they make a smart choice there. Moving on, we have the Thunder defeated the Spurs last night. Kevin Durant extended his 25 points or more per game streak to 39 games. He is 1 away from tying Michael Jordan.
And they have another game tonight.
Yes, and
they have another game tonight. And I think it's necessary we discuss the fact that the Pacers are now actually 1 game behind the Heat in the East. You know, I told you that was going to happen. You didn't believe me. But this did happen, and I'm sad about it. But, you know, that's just kind of how the NBA is going. The Pacers, it's only a 1-game difference right now, so easily the Pacers can come back and gain that. That's just kind of what we're looking at going into, because it is getting about that time. We are starting to look at the playoffs. The season's winding to an end. We know who's going to be in it, but it's as far as who's the top seeds really right now. And another year without the Lakers in the playoffs. That's what it's looking like. And, you know, the Thunder, Kevin Durant, he's just like Magic Johnson said last week that I quoted, he's the MVP. It's over. It's done, LeBron. Sit down. It's done.
Yeah.
Durant, he is the best player in the NBA. He's the best player in the world.
Well, I mean, I love Kevin Durant. I would not go that far to say he's the best in the NBA, best in the world. LeBron James clearly is, but I'm loving what I've seen from OKC. As I've said over the past few weeks. They swept the season series against the Spurs. They also ended the Spurs' 19-game win streak. Kevin Durant's response to his getting the 25 points last night, he was like, oh, it was cool. Yeah, the fans showed me a lot of attention. It was cool. It's definitely nice to live in that moment and recognize that, but that's not on his list of things to do. He's gunning for a championship. As you said, the Pacers have been on a little snide lately. A lot of people think that they won't be able to get out of it. I'm positive that the Pacers will be able to turn it around. They're a great team. Paul George's range is crazy. I don't know if you saw the three-pointer he made the other game, but he shot it from
that was like a 7-pointer. That wasn't a 3-pointer. That was basically a half-court shot. Like, he was just like, I'll take it. You know, I was just like, Paul George, what did you just do?
Yeah, I was actually watching the video of the shot today. He just looked so nonchalant. He told the defender to back off, and he just pulled and drained it. So I mean, with that and with all the talent the Pacers have, with Roy Hibbert, Lance Stevenson, I think the Pacers will be fine. Miami does currently hold the #1 seed. Ultimately, I hope to see them in the Eastern Conference Finals. It'll be a great series, and I can't wait to see what happens in the NBA playoffs, because there's a lot to be excited about. Moving on, the MLB season has begun. I'm so excited about that. If you know me, you know that football and baseball share my heart. The Yankees and the Mets are both off to bad starts. Honestly, I'm not surprised. The Yankees generally lose their first series, and then they turn it around, and then towards the end of the season, we get a little shaky. Derek Jeter went hitless against the Astros in one game. The Astros gave him some nice gifts, some cowboy boots or whatever. I definitely appreciate the respect. I hope to see the Yankees turn it around. I'm really excited about this MLB season. Mike Trout has been called the best player in the MLB at 22, which is incredible. He's definitely a great player. I hope to see the Angels do better too, because they have such great pieces on their team, but last year they really didn't do well with Josh Hamilton, Albert Pujols, so I hope they do better. Miguel Cabrera with his big contract, I hope he does well. Honestly, I'm a bit angry about Cano leaving the Yankees, so I hope the Mariners don't do very well. But love baseball. Can't wait to see what happens.
I made the mistake of watching the Mariners game on opening day, and I was so mad. Like, I almost forgot the fact Cano left us, and then I see him up there, and I was like, oh, so you're on this team now. And it's heartbreaking. And I was rooting for him to do badly, and I'm sorry, but I unfollowed him on Twitter. It's a dramatic time for me right now. And I hate it's a business, and I know that, but I just hate the way it happened, I think. And that's why. And I'm not like that with Curtis Granderson. He was my favorite player on the Yankees, and now he's on the Mets. But I'm not mad at him because I think he handled it a lot better than Cano did. And as far as the start with the Astros, you know, Yankees won the game yesterday, so that's great. Yeah. Finally, a win. Derek Jeter, those boots he got were so nice. The cowboy boots that has a little Yankee sign in them too. And it's funny because last season, every team gave something to Mariano Rivera because they were saying goodbye to a legend. And the same thing is going to happen this year. Mariano Rivera got their pair of cowboy boots as well. And it's such a great sign of respect. And you know what, Derek, those are some nice cowboy boots. I would wear those. They're nice. You're going to get some great gifts. It's saying goodbye to the greatest. So it's sad. And I just hope the Yankees, you know, come out strong. Definitely it's going to be a great season this year for the MLB as a whole. I'm hoping Cano doesn't do well, and I'm hoping the Red Sox don't do well. But I do want to see Yasiel Puig do well. I don't know why I decided that I liked him, but I really do. I think he's a very fun player. I want him on the Yankees, but the Dodgers are holding on to him for dear life. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do. And I don't know, did you see the bee-infested game the other day?
I didn't.
I forget what the teams were. It was in Arizona, and there was a bee problem. They had a bunch of bees, and they had to postpone the game because of all these bees. And the players could not play amidst the bees. Of course, it was a SportsCenter top story, so that's why I know. But look, some weird stuff in the start of the MLB season.
Definitely, but it's also a great time to be a sports fan with MLB starting, NBA heating up. College basketball in the Final Four. But I want to talk about one story, which is our main thing for the show this week. We have Northwestern University football players coming together to unionize. They've been lobbying the NCAA for seasons in terms of getting more oversight for player head injuries, medical coverage, and more scholarships. And Jill and I both have our opinions on this, so I would like Jill to go first and express how she feels about it.
Okay. The problem I have with this is for people to unionize, that is saying that they are employees. Employees, they're trying to be employees unionizing. And they are not employees of the university. They are students there. That is very clear. They are student athletes, not student athletes employees. Like, that is not the case. You do not work for the university. Just because you earn the money does not mean you're an employee of the university, and they need to get that in their heads. When they signed to the NCAA, when they decided to be football players for Northwestern, they signed away all those rights. If they didn't like what they signed away, maybe they should have signed it. Maybe they should have read it a little more in depth than they did, because I know they just signed it and went on about their lives. So you can't be mad at someone else for the mistake that you made. You agreed to this at the end of the day. There's a reason they're not allowed to unionize. That's not what you're not employees of the university. You simply play there. And the thing I find so funny about this is if they're complaining about this, if they're complaining about not getting enough scholarship money, yada yada yada, there's going to be someone else in this country who will kill for that position, and they won't complain. I think players get greedy once they're comfortable in a situation. I think that's what the case is right now. As far as, make awareness for the head injuries, that's fine. But for them to request more scholarship money, when I think Northwestern's a pretty expensive school, and for them to have full rides, I think I saw something about they get $75,000 scholarships or something. So you're getting your room and board paid for, you're getting your school paid for, your books, everything is paid for. Why do you think you deserve more money? I do see the other side to it. I do completely. And I get maybe a little bit more money in their scholarship checks, but other than that, I don't think they should be complaining to this degree. I don't think that they should not be allowed to unionize. And I even read an article about it today. And at the end of the day, is Northwestern a football powerhouse? No. So why is this happening there? And that's what's very weird to me, is that's happening there. The SEC came out and said, well, you're not allowed to unionize. They aren't. No team should be unionizing, because if players at Texas start to unionize, there's 100 other guys who are going to kill for their position. Okay, they get released by the university. Easy. It's done.
Very good point. I personally, I respect the initiative that players are taking, especially Kane Coulter, who played for Northwestern last season. He's actually graduating this June, so this won't affect him at all. He's doing it for future generations. It's good, and I think that it's important that players take initiative to take care of themselves and take care of future generations of college football players. The Chicago National Labor Relations Board granted the Northwestern football players employee status in March, which means they can unionize. And as unionized employees, they'll be able to collectively bargain for workplace protections. And it's a good start. I think that definitely more universities are going to have to jump on board for this to become more effective. But, I mean, I think it's good. I mean, I understand what you're saying, that they're not employees and they shouldn't be paid, but Kane Coulter made it a point that he's not looking to get paid. He just wants scholarship money and scholarship stipends. He doesn't want to receive any.
That's what they're talking. That's what I'm saying when they say getting paid. I understand it just comes through the scholarship checks, and I've said that, and I get that. But that's still, and there's some. I know Texas got cut. They used to get $150 every 2 weeks, and they got cut to $60 every 2 weeks. I think that was harsh. I think that they do need more than that just to live off of. But at the same time, to grant them the privilege to unionize, they are not employees of the university. I can't say it enough. They just aren't, okay? Just because they earn money for the university does not make them employees. That's not even logical. That doesn't make sense to me. Just because you earn money for a university doesn't, because if you think about the people who do, who are employees of the university, teachers, you wouldn't consider them earning money for the university. They have a job. Their job is to teach. It is not a football player's job. That is not his job. His job is he is a student. I don't get paid for being a student. I'm just an average student. So why is this even a discussion? I can't unionize like I'm an employee of the university because I'm not. These guys are my classmates. You know, what's different between them and me? There's nothing different. So I don't, just because you play a sport doesn't mean you're an employee of the university. If you're an employee, I'm an employee. So let's unionize then. But we're not. So I'm not even going to play around with this.
Yeah, there's definitely a fine line between being an employee of a university and making money for it. College football players do make money for the university, as you said. So my thing is that I think that college football players shouldn't be relegated to just being football players. I think that they should be able to look out for themselves, and if they see something wrong, they should be able to talk to the NCAA and get regulations changed. This is more something that you see in professional sports with the NFL Players Association of the past couple seasons with all the collective bargaining and the lockouts and all that. This is something that you see in professional sports, so the fact that it's happening in college sports, I definitely do respect that. I admire Kane Coulter taking the initiative to do such a thing. I think that head injuries are a serious problem. Medical coverage should be provided for that. Scholarship money should be there to provide for people who are injured and can't play the sport anymore and need insurance or need medical help. So, again, I think it's a good thing, and I really hope that it is effective. So, I mean, we can only wait and see.
I mean, I do respect it. I think it's great. You know, you're seeing a problem, you go after it. But you also need to know your place. And I think that's very important. As I've said, they signed these rights away. Every single thing that an NCAA player has a problem with is something that they signed. They agreed to it. It's not like these things are coming out of nowhere. When you agree to be a D1 athlete, you sign your rights away to the NCAA for the rest of your life. They can use your image and make money off of your image for the rest of your life. That is what you agreed to. If you don't like that, that's your own fault because you agreed to that. So the way I see this is it's just people being like, oops, I made a mistake. Well, yes, you did, okay? You did. But you can try to make them change what they have you sign, but at the end of the day, you signed that. You agreed to it. So you can only kick yourself for that. I do get it. They want, medical insurance and stuff for if they stop playing football, but I'm sure that's covered in the NCAA agreement. And I'm sure it says somewhere that that's not the case. And yes, that's very cruel, and it sucks because the NCAA is super rich and could afford literally everything. But again, you agreed to it. I can't help you if you agree to it. You did this to yourself.
Yeah, they did sign their rights away in becoming an NCAA player, but at the same time, if I were a D1 athlete, which I wish I was, and I saw a problem with something, I would definitely address it. I'm pretty outspoken, and that's what Kane Coulter is doing, and that's what I hope more players do. I hope that more players jump on board and see that, oh, this is a problem. Like, we're getting seriously hurt. We need to do something to ensure that we're protected and future players are protected. So I get it, and I would definitely do what Kane Coulter is doing. He's come to Capitol Hill and spoken to people, so he's really doing a lot to get this change, and I think that should get the NCAA's attention because they haven't been receptive to hearing anything that the players had to say. They've been against it. They haven't done anything. So going to the government was a pretty good move, and if you have the government on your side, then you'll definitely have a lot more influence over what happens.
It just bothers me. I don't know why this bothers me so much, but it does because I think that they get greedy. I think football players get very greedy. I think D1 athletes in general get greedy. They want more. And as far as the NCAA gives you the best medicals you need. When you're on a football team, you get the best trainers. You get the best medical help. If you tear your ACL, guess what? Your surgery is on the school. That is free for you, So I don't understand what they're complaining about. If you get hurt, they pay for it. They help you. They help you rehab it. They give you the best people to help you rehab it. They give you every resource that you could possibly need to get over that injury. I don't get that. If I walk on campus and I fall and tear my ACL, okay, good luck. Like, that's it. They're not paying for me. My tuition is paying for these guys to get these surgeries. That is what this money's going to. It's the way it works. I'm not complaining about that. That's fine. I'm complaining about the fact that now they're saying, no, we need more. What more could you possibly need?
Well, viewers, Jill seems pretty dissatisfied with the fact she's not a D1 athlete, so if you see her playing softball, just know that the next softball D1 walk-on was a co-host on Second Take, and I knew her, and she's getting treated by the best medical facilities and staff that the world has to offer. So that's that. I want to thank you guys for tuning in to Second Take once again. Next week is our 10th episode. That's pretty significant to me. I'm really excited about it. I've got some special things planned, so be sure you're watching, and have a great afternoon.